Jordan Chariton live from New York City. Status Coup in the hizzy. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. You know it's a lovely day when democratic socialism, that's right, is trending at the tap of Twitter as we speak. Democratic socialism is the number one trending topic in this here United Corporations of America. Right there, you can see it. Sorry that I am late today to our live stream. God, you guys ever feel like there's just not enough hours in the day? I'm doing so many behind the scenes things for this company, some of which I cannot talk about, some of which I can. The stuff that I can't talk about is super exciting, but it's just taking up so much of my time, and I'm trying my best to be on time and be live every day at 5 o'clock Eastern, but sometimes you just got to do business things, and you're at the mercy of when people are available and all that stuff. So had a lot of business things going on, but it was a big day. Our own Jen Dyes was at Bernie Sanders' speech in Washington, D.C. this afternoon. Bernie obviously gave a big address on democratic socialism, what his definition of it is. I watched most of it. And I actually, part of me felt, damn, I wish he would have been saying a lot of these things in 2016. I don't think he stressed enough about Franklin Delano Roosevelt and those kinds of things. Paul, $2 in the super chat. Thanks for getting us started. Why hasn't Ocasio-Cortez endorsed Bernie? It's a good question. That's a good question. I think that Ocasio-Cortez wants her political leverage to be at a height because she probably wants concessions and wants something out of whoever she endorses. I would find it extremely odd if she doesn't endorse Bernie, considering what her policy proposals are. But I do find it odd that she hasn't endorsed him yet. We'll see what happens. But, it's still early, but I'm very much hoping we're not looking at another Elizabeth Warren who's going to sit it out and not endorse someone. Because if Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez does that, not happy. I won't be happy. So, Christopher Smith, you guys hiring? Got a master's in anthropology and need to put my skills to use. Oh, Christopher, how I wish. Right now, we are at 460, count them, 460 Status Coup members. We have to grow that, and we have to grow that bigly, as Donald Trump would say, before we can start hiring other people. So we'll get into membership a little bit later. Before we get to the news of the day, remember, smash that like button. There's 83 people watching right now, but only 40 of you have pressed the like button. The more people that press that like button, the more people that will see this live stream. YouTube has a funky way of doing things. Obviously, they've been suppressing this channel, many other channels, but when more people press that like button, more people end up seeing it. It basically bumps up the live stream in the algorithm and allows people to see it more in their feeds. So we got 90 people watching right now. We need 90 of you to press that like button. Don't just stop at pressing the like button. I want you to share it as well. Share it on your Twitter, share it on your Facebook, share it on your whatever. Become a Status Coup member. We're going to talk about that in a bit. Follow us at Status Coup on the Twitter. I'm at Jordan Chariton. Subscribe to our podcast. That's bit.ly/Status Coup podcast. And join our email list at statuscoup.com. Also go to statuscoup.com to watch our content and read our articles. I have an interview with Bernie Sanders' campaign manager, Fez Shakir, up right now on statuscoup.com. So if you haven't read that article, definitely read it. Guess what? Nate Silver attacked me today for that article, which I'm going to probably cover tomorrow because I don't have time right now to do it. So. And remember, press the like button. Remember also, this is a super chat. So if you are feeling super, let us know. And I want to also thank, we just got a $100 donation in our GoFundMe from Stephen Fisher. Thank you, Stephen, for that really generous amount. Carl for $15 in the GoFundMe. Alejandro, $15. Kelly, $5. Chris, $20. We are very actively trying to grow our GoFundMe as well as our membership. All of this money, one way, however you slice it, whether it's membership or GoFundMe, is so that we could have those funds to go out in the field. And Jen dies because she was out in the field today at Bernie's speech in D.C. She was able not only to interview Bernie Sanders supporters and get their reaction to Bernie's big speech, she also had an interview with the great Nina Turner that we're going to air tonight. So good things happen. Good things happen when you're out in the field. You're able to not only give a voice and give the microphone to Bernie supporters, we also want to get out there and interview Tulsi supporters. We also want to get out there and challenge, very respectfully but aggressively, Joe Biden supporters, Kamala Harris supporters, America's Mayor Pete Buttigieg's supporters. We got to challenge all of them, but we need the money to get out there. Jen's not going to be in the chat because she's headed back home from D.C. So we'll air the Nina interview in a bit. But first, before I air the highlights of the Bernie speech, we got to start out with something light because this really warmed my heart and it was really insanely funny. Really insanely funny to me. So, of course, the question was, is CNN or MSNBC going to air Bernie Sanders' speech about democratic socialism? I mean, they aired almost in full Joe Biden's Make America America Again speech. Did you see that doozy? So Joe Biden was in Iowa yesterday, and CNN had it, they're trying to push this narrative. They're trying to push the race as between Biden and Trump. They're basically trying to prop up Biden. That's what CNN's doing. That's what MSNBC is doing. So I was kind of surprised that CNN aired any of Bernie Sanders' speech. To be honest with you, by my count, they actually aired 9 minutes and 50 seconds, so almost 10 minutes of Bernie Sanders' speech. But what was hysterical was where they decided to cut out of it. Because unlike Joe Biden's speech, which they aired almost in full in Iowa, they cut out of Bernie Sanders' speech after 10 minutes. But you're going to love where they decided to cut out of Bernie Sanders' speech. Take a guess if you see a theme that Bernie Sanders is talking about that CNN, owned by AT&T, might not like.
But in America today, the very rich live, on average, 15 years longer than the poorest Americans. In 2014, for example, in McDowell County, West Virginia, one of the poorest counties in the nation, life expectancy for men was 64 years. In Fairfax County, Virginia, a wealthy county, just 350 miles away, life expectancy for men was nearly 82 years, an 18-year differential. The life expectancy gap for women in the two counties was 12 years. In other words, the issue of unfettered capitalism is not just an academic debate. Poverty, economic distress, and despair are life-threatening issues for millions of working people in this country. While the rich get richer, they live longer lives. While poor and working families struggle economically and often lack adequate health care, their life expectancy is declining for the first time in modern American history. Taken together, the American dream of upward mobility.
All right, so Senator Bernie Sanders, listening to him giving this speech here, he said it a couple of years ago when he was running the last go round, and he's doubling down again. He is basically saying, America is ready to elect a democratic socialist. So let's analyze all things Bernie Sanders. David Chalian is CNN's political director. MJ Lee is CNN's political correspondent. And David, just first to you, what did you think of the message that we listened to so far? And do you think...
Oh, God. Can you imagine? Let me tell you how it went. Okay? Because I used to work at MSNBC. I used to work at Fox News. I know how these things go. So Brooke Baldwin over there, she's got an executive producer in her ear. As soon as Bernie started talking about unfettered capitalism, the executive producer's like, get out of this. No. Get out. Next time he pivots to something else, out. Because, CNN, owned by AT&T, they don't want to air too much of that because, unfettered capitalism is kind of companies like AT&T. Cut the commercial, cut the commercial. So it's just unbelievable. They'll air Joe Biden's full speech. You know, Joe Biden's infamous Make America America Again. This is what Joe Biden said yesterday. His speech said a whole lot of nothing. Didn't attack corporations, didn't challenge Wall Street, didn't challenge anything. CNN will air it in full. You give Donald Trump $3 billion of airtime, we're going to give Joe Biden as much airtime as he humanly wants. He's going to say a whole lot of nothing. He's going to throw out platitudes, and we will air every single last second of it. But as soon as Bernie Sanders starts talking about unfettered capitalism, the greed, oligarchy, we got to get out of that immediately. So I just thought that was interesting. And remember, there's 140 of you watching right now. There's only 90 of you who have pressed the like button. So what I need you to do, if you're watching on your phone, you need to get out of the live chat quickly. Get out of that live chat for a second, press the thumbs up button, and then you could go back in the live chat. Because the more people that press the like button, the more people that will see this live stream. It's unfortunate that I have to remind the audience 25 times, this is the world we live in. That's the police. That's the sirens coming for you if you have not pressed that like button. Press the like button. So now that we got CNN being a propaganda outlet out of the way and cutting out of the speech when Bernie Sanders talked about unfettered capitalism, I want to play a few parts of the speech that to me, stood out. And again, we're going to have an interview with Nina Turner coming up in a bit. So if you're feeling super, leave it in the super chat. Now, this part I really liked. Let me play this.
Shot up by right-wing terrorists. But on February 20th, 1939, over 20,000 Nazis held a mass rally. Not in Berlin, not in Rome, but in Madison Square Garden, in front of a 30-foot banner of George Washington bordered with swastikas in New York City. New York City. But back then, those American extremists could not replicate the success of their authoritarian brethren across the ocean. Because we in the United States, thank God, made a different choice than Europe did in responding to the era's social and economic crises. We rejected the ideology of Mussolini and Hitler, and we instead embraced the bold and visionary leadership of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, then the leader of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. Together with organized labor, leaders in the African American community, and progressives inside and outside the Democratic Party, Roosevelt led a transformation of the American government and the American economy. Like today, the quest for transformative change was opposed by big business, by Wall Street, by the political establishment, by the Republican Party, and by the conservative wing of FDR's own Democratic Party. And he faced the same scare tactics then that we experience today. Red baiting, xenophobia, racism, and anti-Semitism. In a famous 1936 campaign speech, Roosevelt stated, and I quote, "We had to struggle with the old enemies of peace, business and financial monopoly, speculation, reckless banking, class antagonism, sectionalism, war, profiteering. They had begun to consider the government of the United States as a mere appendage to their own affairs. We know now that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob." And Roosevelt concluded, and I quote, "Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
I absolutely loved that part as a FDR enthusiast myself. You know, tell you the truth, I wish he would have talked more like this in 2016, but let's not look in the rearview mirror. This is what Bernie Sanders needs to be talking about and how he needs to be talking about. Because when the Democratic Party, when the Republican Party, when the corporate media, which is basically just a public relations firm for the Democratic Party and the government, when they try to make socialism a boogeyman word, they're successful because the truth is there has not been the communication and the execution on communicating the fact that socialism is what FDR did. Socialism is the New Deal. Socialism created the economic equality and success of the 1950s and 60s, which any objective person will say was two of the best economic decades in American history. Sure, the World War II boom certainly helped, but the New Deal programs helped. Government regulations helped. Progressive economic taxation helped. Government jobs programs helped. These were all tenets of socialism. And these are all the same exact things that the corporate, I don't want to just say the corporate media, but the corporate media military industrial complex, that's right, the corporate media military industrial complex has made these things seem socialist. These things seem
I've been speaking with
radical.
people online waiting to get...
But in
Hold on,
America
hold on.
today,
This is what Bernie Sanders is talking about. He brought up an economic bill of rights, affordable housing, a quality education, a secure retirement, health care, a clean environment, a decent job that pays a living wage. I mean, this is hardly Joseph Stalin level communism. But this is what, if you watch CNN's reaction to Bernie's speech, when you see idiots like Edward Isaac Dover from The Atlantic, this is what they're trying to smear. This is what they're trying to spin Bernie Sanders' program, which honestly, to the letter of the actual definition, it's not even full-blown socialism. He's not talking about getting rid of the capitalist system. He's really talking about regulating the capitalist system. Thank you, Matty Perry, $1.99 in the super chat. But let me tell you something. Those messages that Bernie Sanders is talking about and getting rid of this gilded age and this oligarchy, it's kind of popular, not just among Democrats, but among Republicans. Want to know why? Because even Republicans are against bailouts for Wall Street. Even Republicans are against endless subsidies to ExxonMobil and Goldman Sachs and Pfizer and Facebook. They are. I mean, the polling shows that progressives and conservatives both agree higher taxes on the rich. We need more government investment in jobs. Higher taxes, period. Republicans, by a majority now, favor Medicare for all. So I think what Bernie Sanders did well was basically, this isn't a word, I'm making it up, is de-boogerize. Make how they're trying to make socialism a boogeyman word. Bernie Sanders really explained, no, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm just talking about the New Deal. I'm just kind of borrowing from FDR. Welcome, new Status Coup member, Margaret Dombrowski. Now we are at 461 Status Coup members. Welcome, Margaret. Remember, you could become a Status Coup member and you could help fund us in the field for as low as $5 to $10 a month. There's almost 200 of you watching. How much is real in the field journalism worth to you? We're going to have an interview with Jen. She was there at Bernie's speech today. She interviewed Nina Turner. She also interviewed a whole lot of Bernie supporters to get their reaction. Jen, I don't know if you're in the super chat right now. We spoke on the phone. Jen, literally, I'm not embellishing. I'm not being dramatic. Jen literally said to me, I was the only reporter there actually interviewing people. All the other reporters were actually tweeting in the back. I say reporters very loosely. All the other reporters were in the back tweeting and doing nothing, which, I said to Jen, did you think I was kidding when I was on the campaign trail and I said I'm the only reporter actually in the crowd interviewing people? It's shocking. And I think Jen's going to do a video on that so you could kind of get a behind the scenes for what we're talking about. When we say, folks, I always tell people this when I'm going to people to try and get them to support status quo. We don't have any competition because every other reporter is basically a PR person. And they don't want to actually go interview real people because they don't give a flying beep what real people have to say. Or they don't give a damn about real people's struggles. That's why they're in the back tweeting. They don't care. So a good job to Jen, and we're going to play her interview with Nina Turner in a little bit. But now we're at 461 members. Our goal for the end of June, is to hit that 500. And then we could start focusing on 1,000. But first we got to hit 500. So for those of you on the fence, hey, we're not talking about what we're going to do. We're showing you what we're going to do. Marcus, our new reporter, just covered Bernie in Nevada and California. Ty just covered Bernie in California. Jen just covered Bernie in D.C. We'd also like to hit the road and cover Tulsi. We'd also like to hit the road. We want to challenge, very respectfully, Joe Biden supporters at his rallies. Maybe even Joe Biden himself. What about Kamala Harris? What about America's new mayor, Pete Buttigieg? All of these people need to be challenged, and we are ready and willing to do it. I just went to the back surgeon, by the way, today. I just got cleared for physical therapy. My back is healing well after surgery, so I'll be out on the road soon enough. But we need your help, folks. So statuscoup.com/join. Become a member. Thank you, Carrie. $20 in the super chat. Great work, Jordan. Don't say great work, Jordan. I wasn't there. This is great work, Jen. Great work to Jen, who was there. So I want to play another part of Bernie's speech, which to me is actually the best message he has. And this is how you defeat Donald Trump. And frankly, this is how you defeat Joe Biden too. Because this is what I've always been saying. Do you know how many times I have said to Larry Chariton, my father, who I love, but happens to be a little deranged when it comes to politics, happens to watch a lot of Fox News, God bless him, happens to like Donald Trump, I say, Dad, what are you crazy? We already live in a socialist country. We have socialism for the rich in this country. That's what tax cuts and subsidies for ExxonMobil and Goldman Sachs and Raytheon and Northrop Grumman and Boeing and Lockheed Martin and Pfizer, that's what all of these subsidies are. We already live in a socialist country. It's called corporate socialism. Well, Bernie Sanders is finally putting out this message, which he should have done more in 2016, but I digress. Here we go.
Quote Harry Truman. Now let us be very clear. While President Trump and his fellow oligarchs attack us for our support of democratic socialism, they don't really oppose all forms of socialism. They may hate democratic socialism because it benefits working people, but they absolutely love corporate socialism that enriches Trump and other billionaires. Let us never forget the unbelievable hypocrisy of Wall Street, the high priests of unfettered capitalism. In 2008, after their greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior created the worst financial disaster since the Great Depression, with millions of Americans losing their jobs, losing their homes, losing their life savings, Wall Street's religious adherence to unfettered capitalism suddenly came to an end. Overnight, Wall Street became big government socialists and begged for the largest federal bailout in American history, some $700 billion from the Treasury and trillions in support from the Federal Reserve. But it's not just Wall Street that loves socialism when it works for them. It is the norm across the entire corporate world. The truth is, corporate America receives hundreds of billions of dollars in federal support every single year, while these very same people are trying to cut programs that benefit ordinary Americans. If you are a fossil fuel company whose carbon emissions are destroying the planet, you get billions in government subsidies, including special tax breaks, royalty relief, funding for research and development, and numerous tax loopholes. If you are a pharmaceutical company, you make huge profits on patent rights for medicines that were developed with taxpayer-funded research. If you are a monopoly like Amazon, owned by the wealthiest person in America, you get hundreds of millions of dollars in economic incentives from taxpayers to build warehouses, and you end up paying not 1 penny in federal income taxes. If you are the Walton family, the wealthiest family in America, you get massive government subsidies because your low-wage workers are forced to rely on food stamps, Medicaid, and public housing in order to survive, all paid for by taxpayers. If you are the Trump family, you got $885 million worth of tax breaks and subsidies for your family's housing empire that was built on racial discrimination. When Trump screams socialism, all of his hypocrisy will not be lost on the American people. Americans will know that he is attacking all that we take for granted, from Social Security to Medicare to veterans.
Oh, say it, Bernie. Preach that shit. Preach that shit. Excuse my French, I just got demonetized. Let me tell you something. I don't know who got in Bernie's head or ear to talk like this, because I kept saying on the road in 2016, why isn't he saying we already live in a socialist country? I don't know if it's David Sirota, who's his new speechwriter. I don't know if it's Fez Shakir, who is his new campaign manager. I don't know if it's Jane Sanders. Who knows? Who cares? This is the message that can win not just Democrats, but Republicans. Because people need to understand. Which, hearing that just gave me a thing for Bernie. This message is universal. Nobody, unless you're a rich person, there is no person living paycheck to paycheck. I don't care if you're progressive. I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're neoliberal. I don't care if you're a marshmallow. There's no person that is down with, never-ending breaks to the corporate elite when we are called the takers by shitheads like Paul Ryan. You remember? Paul Ryan, we're the takers. So if we're the takers, then I guess Goldman Sachs and them are, the makers, right? When they take money they don't need, by the way, they're the makers of society. When we take, we're the moochers. This is the message. And I understand Elizabeth Warren is rising in the polls. I understand there's a new YouGov poll out that the corporate media is getting very excited about. It's one of the first polls that she is above Bernie Sanders. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. She is rising in the polls. But Elizabeth Warren cannot pull off this message. She just can't. It's not because she doesn't have some strong policies. I don't think Elizabeth Warren is Hillary Clinton like some of you do. She's not my favorite candidate. I want Bernie Sanders. That's who I support. But Elizabeth Warren cannot pull off this message because Elizabeth Warren herself has said she's not a socialist. She's a capitalist, but she believes in regulated capitalism, which, frankly, is a little naive. Because you can't regulate capitalism without getting money out of politics. It cannot be done. You cannot actually regulate politics if the regulators are bought off, if the politicians are bought off, if the agencies are bought off. You cannot. So although we cannot put our heads down in the sand, I got to be honest, she is rising in the polls. It is something that the Sanders campaign obviously has to watch. I'm going to report on it accurately. I'll probably monitor more polls to see if she rises more. One poll with her one poll with her in second place and Bernie in third place, to me, does not make a game-changing shift. But if there's many polls where she moves into second place, then I'm going to have to report on that, obviously. But I also look at the state-by-state polls, and Elizabeth Warren is not in as good of a position as Bernie Sanders is. When you look at Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Bernie Sanders is beating Donald Trump by 10 to 12 points. Bernie Sanders is basically beating Donald Trump by the same margin as Joe Biden in those states. Elizabeth Warren is not. So you could show me national polls if you want. I want to see the polls in the states that are actually going to decide the election. So I'm not going to get so crazy that Elizabeth Warren is moving up in one poll. And I will tell you, I happen to think on a debate stage, I think Elizabeth Warren speaks well. I'm not going to say I don't. But I don't think Elizabeth Warren has I just don't think she has that it factor. And you could call me sexist if you want. It doesn't have to do with her gender. I just don't think she has that transformative it factor that Bernie Sanders does. Now, I mean, I've already told you, if it came down to Elizabeth Warren versus Donald Trump, this is not a Hillary Clinton-Donald Trump situation, folks. Some of you might not like me saying that, but I would vote for Elizabeth Warren. She would be, by far, the most economic president, the most progressive president we've had in a very long time, economically. Doesn't mean I like her on foreign policy. Doesn't mean I don't think she hasn't showed up and has been MIA on a lot of things. But, let's not be extremists here and say if we don't get exactly what we want. No, Elizabeth Warren would be better than Donald Trump. But I'm not even getting into that because right now we don't have to. And I think this message of socialism and Elizabeth Warren choosing to say she's not a socialist. And by the way, Elizabeth Warren, my new reporter Marcus did a live stream earlier. He's new, mangled a fact or two. So have I in my career. So I reached out to him and gave him a few notes. But Elizabeth Warren is not exactly so strong on Medicare for All. At first she was a co-sponsor to Bernie's Medicare for All plan, but now slowly, like Kamala Harris and others, she's for the idea of Medicare for All. That's the goalpost. That's what we want. But she's for, if we don't get it tomorrow, she's for, steps to get to that. No. That's called incrementalism. That's called trying to have your cake and eat it too. We need candidates that are concretely no hemming and hawing for Medicare for All, period. That's the police coming for Elizabeth Warren because she's moonwalked on Medicare for All. She doesn't talk about it on the campaign trail. I don't even see it on her literature. So anyway, I was just pointing out, I'm not going to do a whole top video on it right now. Maybe I will later in the week. She is rising in the polls. We do have to, it's legitimate. She is rising in the polls. However, one poll does not make a trend. So it's something to watch. But why I think that this speech today was so good, and that's right, become a status Coup member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we're going to get out into the field and cover events like this. And again, about to show you Jen's interview with Nina Turner. Why I think this is so important is because when Bernie Sanders is on that debate stage, he needs to make clear we already live in a socialist country, that Joe Biden favors socialism, that Kamala Harris favors socialism, that Elizabeth Warren favors socialism, that all of these candidates, they favor socialism because they're for Social Security, They're for Medicare for all. And frankly, I haven't heard a lot of these people. You know, when it's convenient for them, they're against subsidies. I haven't heard a lot of these people propose legislation to end subsidies for Wall Street, to end subsidies for fossil fuel companies, to end subsidies for pharmaceutical companies, for big banks. Bernie Sanders has. Bernie Sanders has. So before we air Jen's great interview with Nina Turner, I want to show you what we've already done on the campaign trail. There's 211 of you watching. For those of you that are on the fence, for those of you who don't understand what becoming a Status Coup member actually does, what we're actually spending the money that we're making from our members, Ty just produced this campaign promo video, just scrapping together a few quarters. And your support has gotten us to cover what I'm about to show you. Here is Status Coup so far on the campaign trail.
I've been speaking with people online waiting to get in for a few hours, and a common thing you kind of hear from Bernie voters is, let's finish what we started.
We're going to win this election because we are putting together the strongest grassroots campaign in the history of American politics.
I'm live, sorry.
Hey everybody, look at Status Coup is out doing, what do they call this, reporting.
We the people, we got to be running Bernie as an independent regardless now.
Why is it that all of the money is going to the 1% and, you know, our wages are staying flat? I mean, everybody's working hard. We're all going for the American dream, but it's not happening.
The United States, if you were president, have to look at some of the things it's doing to spark radicalization.
Yeah, I think it is important to look at the ideology that is driving different terrorist groups.
Take a look outside of New York at the plight of the working man and woman in this country.
And we gotta keep it 100 and respect and lift up our black women. Most of them putting in that work was black women.
You know, what does it mean to be a leader? You know, everybody in the front ain't a leader. You judge a leader by the work that he or she produces. We have a lack of leadership because we have people who are trying to force other people to be leaders.
He's going to need people actually correcting the record, because I think a lot of people, particularly some older, more establishment voters, you know, think he's a socialist boogeyman, and they're going to need people knocking on their door to explain, no, he's not. He's just trying to do basically what like FDR did.
Where would we be if JFK said, going to the moon is a pie in the sky? I don't know. No, we make the decision to do it, and then we figure it out.
Bernie Sanders is at least coming out saying, hey, this is what I'm about. I've been saying the same thing throughout my entire 40 years of politics, and I have not detracted from that stand.
Kimberly Ellis, who's an African-American woman running for chair, and she almost beat Eric Bauman 2 years ago. And a lot of people think she did beat Eric Bauman, that he cheated to win. Anyway, Eric Bauman was forced to resign in November because of sexual harassment.
The Democratic Party likes to talk a lot of nonsense all the time about we support women of color, we're here from women of color, but when it comes time to create space for them to talk about issues, the issues that are bothering them, they're never there to show up.
So is this your first Bernie Sanders rally?
Yes.
Okay. So what? I'm a convert.
I think when the debates come around, I'd like to see him go a lot harder against his opponents. I'd like to see him call them out for the corruption that is very obvious.
This is why Status Coup exists. All the corporate folks have left. We're still here.
I want somebody to come in that's not owned, that doesn't owe anybody anything, and get our country back, get our country right again.
We have seen throughout history far too many examples of how U.S.-led regime change have been driven, frankly, by corporate interests.
Become a member of the Status Coup. We appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all so much. Like, I'm literally doing my dream job because of y'all.
Now seeing Mexican kids getting deported without their parents, and it's just like not okay. I'm just really disrespected. So I hope the next president does something good about this.
Well, your personal opinion is based on working in finance, not actually going out into the country and seeing what's actually happening. Gives me chills. So that's what we're trying to do, folks. I'll leave it up to you. If for those of you who don't have an extra $5 to $10 a month, we get it. We don't want to make anyone's situation worse than it is. For those of you that do, We are ready. I am ready to get out in the field, cover Bernie, cover Tulsi, cover the establishment, and expose some wrongdoing, to break stories on the campaign trail. Unless you want to leave it to CNN. I mean, if you want to leave it to CNN, that's fine. We get it. If you want to leave it to CNN, to MSNBC, to the New York Times, to do, some great journalism, we could do that too. But I personally don't think we got time for that. I don't think we got time for that. And remember, if you remember now, a lot of you have asked, how can we gift membership to others? Well, Jen did a video on this, but we wish we had an easier way and you could just press a button and gift it. Our website plugin doesn't allow it. So really, if you want to buy a membership for somebody else, all you really got to do, sign up to be a new member, like when you signed up to be a member, and just enter the person you want to give the membership to as a gift, enter that person's email, and then enter their name, their information, and put in your credit card information. Most importantly, that person will not be able to see your credit card information, but that person will then have access to our member section. And by the way, it's not charity. As a member, you get bonus content as well. Ty is working on new content just for members. So become a member at statuscoup.com/join for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Without further ado, let me play the interview Jen just did with former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner, who is obviously a big supporter of Bernie Sanders and a top senior advisor to his campaign. The screen's about to go black because I have to load the interview, so give it a second.
It's Jen here with Senator Nina Turner. How are you today?
I'm fine, Jen. How are you?
Doing great. That was a wonderful speech, and it seems like Bernie is trying to take the term democratic socialism and make it accessible for people. Do you think that the country is ready for that?
I do. It was absolutely riveting, and as you know, those who listened to the speech, he wrapped it in the fundamental principles of the Economic Bill of Rights that President FDR had started in 1944, and then he sealed it with what the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about in terms of what is needed to turn the tide in this country and really put this nation on notice that we have socialism for the wealthy and we have rugged individualism for the poor. It was true when Dr. King said that in the 60s. It was true when President FDR was trying to forge a different path, and it is true in the 21st century, and that is why I am so happy that Senator Sanders said that he has a 21st century version of what President FDR started in 1944.
And what about those Trump voters who have their own economic anxieties and they hear the message of, well, what about the freedom to have a good job, a living wage, health care for everyone? Do you think that they can be swayed?
I do. And the senator ended that portion of his speech by saying that if you are a veteran and you are homeless, that is not really freedom at all. And if we all, no matter what walk of life we are, can really wrap our minds around that one of the biggest stains on this country, and there are many, but to have any veteran that is homeless is something that we can never stand for or tolerate, because they fight for the very freedoms that we hold dear. So whether it is veterans or your mom or your dad or your neighbors or their children, people suffering every single day, people live by people who suffer every single day, and not for the lack of not trying. The working poor, it is a real thing, and the senator really addressed that. It is the foundation of why he is running. And when he says that 99 is always bigger than 1%, he really means that. And everybody that's in that 99%, whether you consider yourself a Republican, a Libertarian, a Democrat, no party, or just a flat-out American, you are part of that.
And Senator Sanders also talked about continuing FDR's economic message. He pulled some amazing quotes from Martin Luther King Jr., and he also brought in his own thoughts and feelings. And I remember, I believe it was Fish Shakir who posted a picture of him in his hotel room speaking to a service worker about her life. It seems like the senator speaks to people where they are in their lives. And I'm sure you see that on the campaign trail all the time.
All the time, and it is so genuine. It's not just what our campaign manager saw the senator up to when it was time to go, but just recently we visited Denmark, South Carolina, and he went into the home of Paula Brown and Eugene Smith, who have been keeping a lab of water, collecting water every single year and labeling it to show the dirty water that they and so many of their neighbors were forced to drink or bathe in. And I remember like it was yesterday when the senator walked into their home. Miss Brown, just tears welled up in her eyes, and she said, I've been fighting this fight for such a long time, and no, I didn't think that anybody believed us, and to have you, Senator Bernie Sanders, in my living room in my house means so much to me. So what people see is what they get. This is real. This is coming from the senator's heart. I always talk about him as being the person who has heart-soul agreement. He has that agreement, and it is that heart-soul agreement that is going to make him the best president, the type of president that we need in this moment. That's how he opened up his speech, that the weight of this moment is such that we need a president that is willing to stand up unabashedly and take on Wall Street, take on the pharmaceutical industry, take on the oil industry, take on the mega industries that make their wealth, not an honest way, but they make it towards unfettered greed on the backs and the necks of the everyday people. My mama was one of those everyday people. My grandmother was one of those everyday people. The people that I am privileged to be able to talk to all across this country, they represent, from Iowa to Ohio, they represent those everyday people. And Senator Sanders is running for those everyday people. Not me, he says all the time. This is about us.
I've been speaking with people online waiting to get in for a few hours, and a common thing you kind of hear from Bernie voters is, let's finish what we started.
We're going to win this election because we are putting together.
So that was Nina Turner with Jen. Unfortunately, and I've experienced this quite often, a lot of times when you're at these events or on the campaign trail, you're interviewing someone and you see somebody kind of like off to the side, kind of motioning them like, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. And then you're kind of, as the journalist, like, you're not distracted, but like, you don't want to make them late. But at the same time, you want to get in as much questions and as much time with the person as possible. I mean, I've had straight up just people get yanked away from me because they don't like the questions I'm asking. But always good to get time with Nina Turner, even if it's only a few minutes. Jen did a great job there, and she also interviewed other Bernie supporters that before Bernie's speech and after. So we'll be posting that probably tomorrow, most of them. And this is what we want to do, folks. It's not rocket science. And I say that you should join Status Coup. Again, you could support this kind of work. That's outdated. Now we have 461 paying members, and that 461 members goes with 300. I think we have 335 patrons. So overall, we have almost 800 of you paying per month to support our in-the-field journalism. And what's really interesting, and Jen knows this story, but before we launched Status Coup, I was just kind of in the brainstorming mode. And I went out for a drink with somebody I know who works in media in New York City. He's a nice guy. I think he worked at MSNBC, I'm not sure. But he's one of those guys that when I told him my vision for Status Coup, he was like, oh, that's so nice. That's so nice that you want to go, interview normal people and, give a voice to those who are voiceless and don't get invited on CNN or don't get quoted in the pages of the New York Times. That's so nice that you want to go interview single mothers and these kind of things. But like, you can't build a business off of that. Like, you're not going to make enough money to do that. Well, I told him, I think I can, because at the Young Turks, I was, it wasn't only because of me, but I was kind of successful. I mean, I built a successful channel at the Young Turks, because the truth is there's a huge, huge market and appetite out there for people like Jen to go out there and interview real, breathing, everyday people. You could call them blue-collar people, you could call them white-collar people, you could call them black-collar, you could call them glow-in-the-dark. Where do you see actual everyday people being interviewed? Where do you hear everyday people's stories other than Bernie Sanders' social media? I mean, it's amazing that Bernie Sanders' campaign does more actual journalism getting the stories of Walmart workers and McDonald's workers and these than actual news channels. So that's what we're trying to do here. And we have been doing this basically with one hand tied behind our back because we don't have any big fancy investor. We haven't had a fancy big plutocrat funding us because we will not take dirty money. We will not take that crap special interest money. So we've been trying to do it the grassroots way. And I firmly believe this, and I've said this many, many times. And this is why I believe so many of you have contributed. I mean, some of you have contributed to our GoFundMe over 50 times, which is not lost on me. But I believe, both professionally and personally, actions always speak louder than words. So you got a lot of outlets out there that ask you to become a member, or they ask you to support their Patreon, or they ask you to give them something, give you their money, give them your hard-earned money that you don't have extra money to spend. And they tell you, oh, they're different, and they're going to offer you something different, this and that. And what do? You get a lot of the same sensational crap that you could find on CNN or MSNBC. I mean, yeah, Trump's the president. I mean, yeah, Trump's awful. But am I adding anything to the discussion to report the same exact story that's being reported 25,000 times by the same exact people all day long? I don't think so. And I think it is important to how you get rid of people like Trump is to wake more people up to how we got Trump in the first place. You didn't get Trump because of Putin. You didn't get Trump because of WikiLeaks or Comey. You got Trump because there is a growing revolt, not just in Middle America, but in America, period, and a growing awakening to the fact that the government has been working against the people, not for the people. So status quo, we have a very simple proposition. You fund us, and we go. We are going to go to the next Standing Rock, because I think Keystone is the next Standing Rock, which I'm going to have an update on tomorrow. A judge has reversed an injunction and now has given the green light, once again, for Keystone XL Pipeline. And I think you could see a Standing Rock-like movement, and maybe worse as far as the violence in Nebraska, Montana, where Keystone is going through. We want to go not just on Bernie's campaign trail, not just on Tulsi's campaign trail, not just to Biden events and Kamala events and all this. We want to go and cover the local issues in these cities and in these states that actually determine elections. We want to give the microphone to you, the people. You might think it's cheesy, but that's what I firmly believe, and that's why we have created this company. Trust me, we have not created this company to become multi-billionaires. That's probably not going to happen, and I don't even think I'd want to be one. We are trying. Jen is doing this while having 2 kids, right? Ty is doing this while needing neck surgery, okay? Marcus, our new reporter, has 3 kids. I am doing this, generally, I'm doing the job day to day of 3 or 4 people because we don't have somebody to publish our videos. We don't have somebody to do social media. I don't have any research help really other than Jen. I don't have much help for anything really. So if you're a member, great. If you're not a member, I hope you understand this is what we're asking you to become a member for. We are now at 461 members. The bottom line is, for us to be a well-oiled machine, I hate to say oiled, but for us to be a well-running machine with the consistent revenue we got to get to 1,000. We got to get to 1,000. And that revenue will greatly help us. Because right now the revenue is going to pay salaries. I mean, we got to pay Jen, got to pay Ty, got to pay Colin, got to pay Marcus. Eventually I'd like to be paid something. So once we're covered with actual expenses, then we could spend the money on actual travel and in the field. So I hope you enjoyed the interview with Nina Turner. Thank you, Jen, for going to that. We're going to try to go out in the field and cover more things in the next few weeks. You could always, if you can't do monthly membership, but you want to contribute like, 1 time or 2 times, whatever, our GoFundMe is going. Thank you. Patrick just left $38 in the GoFundMe. Kelly, $5. Stephen, thanks again for that $100. We are now at $58,450. And that is since September. We've raised $58,450. And that number is kind of deceiving. Yeah, it's since September, but we really did not push the GoFundMe at all for 3 months, because for 3 months we could not go live. For those of you who remember that ridiculous, awful period where we could not go live. So we didn't push the GoFundMe for 3 months. So that's really, that's really almost $59,000 in 6 months, basically, of pushing it. So thank you to everyone. We're going to upload Jen's interviews with audience members. And if you're a member already, there's more things you could do for us. Word of mouth is super, super important. So if you have friends that might be into status quo, maybe they're not like hardcore progressives, maybe they're not hardcore politics, but maybe they'd want to know the truth about what's going on. Maybe they would like a non-corporate take on the news. Tell them to check out Status Quo. We're on most days. Today I was a little late, 5 o'clock Eastern time. And if you have, friends, family that you think might be interested in this, it only takes $5 to $10 to support and fund real independent journalism. We are extremely, extremely frugal when we go out on the road. You could ask Jen how cheap I actually am. So thank you. Good job by Jen. Good job by Ty on our campaign promo video. I will see you tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern. And remember, Jen's about to film a behind the scenes video just for our members at the White House. So statusquo.com/join. As soon as you're a member, you can get our members content right there in the member content section. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.